No capes, no crazy superpowers, just the courage and the convictions to do the right thing. Frank Barnes, Will Coulson, Max Durocher, Alan Gamble, and Terry Hoyt are some of the best on-screen unsung heroes we have ever seen. In today's episode, we are going to discuss whether they deserve to be called heroes.
Beans?
Well, before we start discussing the movies, I have a small game that I want to play with you, Tim.
No games.
No
Darren,
games,
please.
okay. So it's called a starting segment. It's called Strongly Agree or Strongly Disagree. What is the best superpower?
Okay.
The first one I have for you is super strength. Is it the best superpower to have? I strongly agree with this one.
You would?
Yeah.
Then I'll go the opposite. I'll strongly disagree. I won't agree with it. It's terrible.
I think it's just very convenient.
For what?
Well, let's say if you want to park your car and you can't find a spot, you can just lift your car up and then put it on
Lift the
top
other
of
cars out of the other parking spot and dump it.
Yes.
What about simple things?
Like, what do you mean?
Like you don't realize how much strength you have and you like try to open a door and you rip the door off.
Well, you can have the strength to put the door back.
Well, but then you put a hole in the wall because you put it in too strong and you smash the whole wall down.
True.
See, terrible.
Okay, true.
Why would you want it?
The second superpower is invisibility.
Okay, what do you think? I've got to disagree with you.
I strongly disagree.
Okay, then I strongly agree then.
Okay, why do you think it's a good superpower?
I don't want anyone to see me, ever.
Okay, but I guess...
How are you meant to save people?
Well, my reasoning is because it has something to do with logistics. You have to be naked all the time.
I can't believe I'm doing this again.
Well, you didn't specify.
Yeah, okay. So
you're saying invisibility but must be naked.
Well, then that means I have to spend time to create the clothes that will become invisible with me as well.
You could just say everything on you turns invisible.
No, it says just invisibility. I don't know what that means.
No, but that's what I mean. Well, we're here now. We're discussing it. Are we talking about you have to be naked to be invisible?
Okay.
Or are we saying that just the clothes on you or anything you're holding? How are we going about it?
Probably not anything that I'm holding. So
Okay.
maybe just myself. Because
Just
being invisible, it's more about like just your body, right?
Okay.
Like the clothes,
So-
like the touch you use, like don't
So
need to be
complete nudity.
complete nudity. Yeah, it's going to be very cold.
Well, it's great then. You can go streaking and no one will notice.
Well, you will notice. Maybe you.
Well, I'm the only one that'll notice, but I'm the only one can see it.
Okay, so you don't. So you think that it's a best superpower
Yeah, it's
to
better.
have?
Better than strength. Ugh.
All right, and finally, super brain.
Super brain.
Super brain.
So does it mean my brain has superpowers?
Mm-hmm.
What about the rest of me?
No, just your brain.
My brain leaves my body behind. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm super now and flies off.
Yeah, maybe.
So great power.
Great. Well, okay. I agree. I think this is a good superpower to have. I would say because your brain can come up with a lot of things, maybe it will figure out a way to give you super strength.
Maybe.
It figure out a way to give you invisibility. So
Maybe it gets so smart it doesn't need your body anymore and it leaves you. And it creates a robotic body and it's like, see you later, Darren.
just like in the Ant-Man movie,
Yeah.
the floating head.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I found a better body. And it has super strength and invisibility.
That sounds scary as hell. Yeah, and that's just like a bit of a warm-up session before we get into today's
What about
episode.
one more, Darren? Flying. What about flying?
What I think flying is not the best superpower to have because we have planes, we have airplanes.
But is it like invisibility though? Do you need to be naked?
No, no. You need to wear more clothes.
You have to wear more clothes.
Yeah, and you can't wear more clothes.
You have to wear leather. You got to wear your bike helmet.
Yeah, the glasses.
You got to have a little clean wiper when you run into all the bugs.
Well, but it doesn't specify how fast you're gonna fly though.
As fast as you want.
like a airplane or a jet.
Like a jet. Imagine going Mach 1.
Oh my God, you will lose your hearing.
I was going to say you'd probably pass out, wouldn't you? Too many G's.
Why are you flying?
That's actually the special power. You can only fly when you're unconscious.
Then how do you know when you're richer? That's
Oh, you're going to get there eventually, maybe.
So you're gonna wake up and then go back to
in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
and then pass out again.
I can't fly unless I'm out unconscious. Oh shit!
That's a good idea for a movie, though. Yeah. Any other superpower you want to discuss?
I'm sure there's more, but I could add one more in.
I don't think we need to talk about this anymore.
Right.
But I want to start this episode with the first movie, Unstoppable, starring.
Were we meant to watch that?
Well, yes, you meant to. Denzel Washington and Chris Pine. Chris Pine was really young in this movie.
Yeah, well, he's been. You always forget how long he's been around for because I think the first movie I really remember him from is like Star Trek.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been around a long time though.
Okay.
You always think about that's what I mean. You don't think about, oh shit, look how young he is there.
And the starting point of Chris Pine is it's an interesting story as well. He almost gave up on acting before he was cast into The Princess Diary starring Anne Hathaway.
Oh yeah.
And for that movie, he got paid $75,000. But during that time, he was living in his car. So he couldn't even afford rent, couldn't afford food, etc. Yeah,
Damn.
so that movie really changed his career.
Well, there you go.
So this movie was directed by Tony Scott. And if you think that the name is familiar, he's the younger brother of Ridley Scott.
Ah, well, there you go.
The director of Gladiator, Thelma and Louise, the original Blade Runner, Black Hawk Down, and American Gangster. You can go on and on. But I think Tony has a bit of a different taste compared to his brother. He seems to really like trains.
Well, nothing wrong with that. You like trains?
No, nothing wrong with that. He made 2 consecutive movies with Denzel Washington about trains. In 2009, he made The Taking of Pelham 123, starring Denzel Washington and John Travolta. And in 2010, he made this masterpiece, Unstoppable. Yeah, so what is your first impression of this movie, Tim?
If we're talking about the movie itself, I thought it was all right. I think the story itself is interesting.
Yeah.
Like all the circumstances, all the things they try to do to stop the train and stuff. And even technically the 2 main characters. I thought they're all interesting, but I thought the movie itself was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was anything hot. But I think the story was very good and very interesting.
I agree. And comparing to The Taking of Pelham 123, this one is definitely the better movie.
Well, there you go.
My poor John Travolta.
Well, he's had his ups and downs, right?
Mostly downs.
Mostly downs. Well, there you go.
But I must admit, when I watched this movie, I was at the edge of my seat for most of the time of this movie. It was good, and I think the introduction of the series of the event is very quick. It's all about the negligence of the 2 train railway workers.
Yeah, right.
What do you think about the 2 main characters?
I thought they were good because, it's based on real stories, right? So, they do both seem to be believable people, right? All with their own struggles, right?
Yeah.
Like Denzel's character, he's working hard for his
2
young daughters.
Yeah.
And he's just gotten fired or laid off essentially. Yeah. And then Chris Pine's also dealing with his partner. Yeah. And he's got a restraining order against her because he's got to probably be, was it her meant to be her boyfriend, but it was just somebody that she was too close to or something. It was like a teacher or something.
Yes.
And then he got too upfront with it and then restraining order and stuff. So just 2 normal dudes dealing with life.
Yeah.
Because at the start when Chris Pine first comes in, is it Will and Frank? I'm trying to remember their names now.
So
the
Will
characters.
Coulson and Frank Barnes.
Because when Will comes in initially, the old guys that run the trains are just like, oh, here's the new gun trying to come in to take our jobs because they know at this point, I'm assuming some more than him, more than Frank's been laid off or slowly, told to retire, right? So it's interesting. So, okay, there's a bit of a dynamic between those 2, the new guy coming in to take the job. And it's it's interesting dynamic through the film. Because before we get to the point of them chasing the train, it's interesting to see how they kind of bounce off each other and stuff and how they kind of develop over, because it's crazy. First day of the job, imagine that, right?
Yeah,
Could you imagine?
You would quit the next day.
And then dealing with if I'm going to see my kid again, and it's there's a runaway train that might murder us.
That's a very fun event to talk about because I would think that the 2 main characters, they are not perfect in any way.
No.
And I think that's why they're very relatable, right?
Well, they are people, right? That's the thing. It's based off a real story, which always helps.
And I'm not sure if this is a creative choice, but the script gives these main characters a lot of life challenges. So Frank Barnes, the main character, he has 2 young daughters who he rarely sees because he's at work all the time. And and you're right, he was facing early retirement. And this young guy, I think there was a detail about his last name. He might know someone important.
Oh, that's right. They said he might be,
related to some
nepotism, and he's getting a job off that and stuff. Where it wasn't quite that simple.
Yeah. But the thing is, the movie didn't do anything more about that. It's more about...
I think it was fine because obviously they want to get to chasing the train and all that. And you don't want to delve too much into that because they're talking about unions and stuff and how that's why they're getting kicked out and stuff like that. But That's more of like the political side of their work site, right?
Yeah.
Which is always a bit in play, but obviously that doesn't really matter when, you know, a train's coming at you full ball.
And I want to talk about another fun character of this movie, Connie Hooper, played by Rosario Dawson. She is like super. Well, I can say like this is how a strong female character should be. Like the no bullshit female character. She comes in, she gets her job done, and she knows her stuff.
Well, I get what you're kind of saying, but like yet again, it's based off a real person.
Yeah.
And it's like when shit hits the fan, it's like, well, I've got to deal with it now, right? I can't, you know, there's no covering it up, or you've got to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's only one thing that can happen. It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's not something like a small, like, oh, I've accidentally printed off the wrong thing at work. That's a bit easier. When someone's left a train flying down a railway road at like, what was it, 70, 80 miles or something?
Yeah.
With a shit ton of cargo. It's like, it was like, what was it? It was dangerous cargo as
yeah,
well.
So four or five of the cargoes contain like highly flammable chemicals.
The wrong train to leave on, like, off the brake or whatever.
And this is jumping to the end of the movie a little bit, but like the guy got fired. It was like, no, like he could have received a much more serious punishment.
Because it is just like, I don't know, like how negligence would like go through, like if they were going to court with it, if he was going to prison or something, it's like, because of your negligence, you caused the loss of like, you know, so many. I think if a lot of people died, he probably would have.
Yeah. Luckily, that didn't happen because thanks to our unsung heroes, they decided to come up with their own plan. But before we talk about their plan and their rescue mission, I want to give the floor to all the other unsung heroes in the movies, the police officers who organized all the evacuations of the towns, and all the firemen, the marine guy who was trying to get onto the train the first time.
I'm like, who thought of this plan? This is like
the leader of the organization.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, that'd be like a cool idea, but I'm like, it seems so stupid. Like how, I don't know, there's so many things to go wrong in that.
Another part that I really like about this movie is none of the main characters could have achieved the goal by themselves. Like if you remember the details.
Yeah. Well, that's not one person's going to stop a flying train, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like trying to figure it out, and it's like, as usually it goes in a business, like they're trying to figure out the best way to do it without losing money, right? Or trying to damage property. But then at a certain point, you know, when a whole bunch of people are going to die, it doesn't mean much, right?
Yeah.
Because that was like the second attempt right after trying to throw the guy on it or whatever. They tried to derail it, right?
Yeah, so when they tried to derail it, it was a second attempt. But the first attempt was they got another train operator.
That was part of it, because they were trying to get him to slow it down so the guy on the helicopter could get on there easier.
And it turns out that guy became a casualty.
Yeah, so I think was he the only death?
I think so, yes.
Because that's what I was thinking when I was watching the movie, because I didn't know the story before watching the film. And I'm like, oh, is he going to bloody die? And when the train flips over and explodes, I'm like, I think he was making it out of that one.
Yeah. And he was one of the few people who started the scene with Will Coulson. He was one of the older guys complaining that the young guy is coming to take over his job. So that's one of the details that I really like about this movie, because there were multiple attempts to stop the train, but then the planes fail. The owner of the train company, Galvin, played by Kevin Dunn, I think he did a pretty good job to make us hate him.
Well, it's just like playing, you know, a higher up, right? That's usually how it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
They're like, run through the steps to see what they can do. And then at a point, they're just like, well, like, you know, that's the thing.
I think by the second attempt, he realized that he can't save money anymore.
No, well, more the derailing was like the final attempt, right?
Yeah.
Because even Frank they were talking to dispatch or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's not going to work. This is when they just got past it and just missed it. So they're like, we're going to go after it. And he's like, oh, we're going to derail it. Watch out. And he's like, it's going, I think it was too quick and too heavy or something he was saying.
Too big, too quick, too heavy. And obviously we saw that all the derailers got smashed. Then it leads me to the next question. We are talking about like ordinary people becomes the hero. And we had the segments before this movie about the superpowers. What do you think the superpowers of our main characters are? Do you think they have superpowers? So we're talking about Connie, Frank, and Will.
Well, I think that plays on. I don't want to say they've got you don't need to be like have superpowers to be a hero, right? that's how we understand it today because there's so many superhero movies. But they all do their job, right? Obviously, I would say Will and Frank go way beyond that, right?
Yes.
Like Connie tries her best to kind of like organize and make everything's going to plan, and everyone's got like a head up plan, and the guy that's chasing it on the truck most of the time, like she makes sure like everything's sorted out. But I wouldn't say. I don't want to downplay what they did and say, they have a superpower. I think determination definitely from Will and Frank, like to be, like I know Will was a bit hesitant because he was like, oh shit, like
it's my first day.
I'm dealing with so much shit at home and like, do I want to chase down this barreling train and try to save it? Which I thought like was brutal. Should we jump into how they actually do it? Because I thought it was weird as hell. Like,
sure.
I get that like the first bit made sense where they try to like hook up.
Yeah.
And that's when Will like gets his leg caught in it and like breaks his leg.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that was crazy. And then they're like, that didn't really work. So Frank climbs on top to try to run down.
Yep.
He's like turning all the brakes.
Correct. Yeah.
Kind of
to
slows
slow
it
the train down. Yeah.
But then their initial train that was trying to slow it down, its brakes like fail.
Yeah.
So it catches up speed again.
Yeah.
And so they get Will to like jump on the truck.
Yeah.
To go to the front, to jump back onto the front train to like turn it off or turn the brakes on. I'm like, couldn't you get someone else to do that? This poor bugger's like broken his leg.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he's got to try and jump onto a moving train. I'm like, couldn't you have someone else do this? Like, couldn't you just say, hey, I'm a bit, my leg's fucked. Can you get someone?
Get the Marine.
Can we get anybody else to jump on this train?
Yeah.
I thought that was, obviously they weren't thinking about it that hard, but
well,
it was crazy.
But you need someone who knows how to operate the train to get on the train as well.
But I mean, like,
I'm pretty sure you can get the instructions.
Not the guy that's like chasing the train. He's done like a lot of work even before this. And you're like, hey, can you just fucking jump back on there? Because I was like, he's going to get on there, like land on his leg and like fall off the train. Then they're like completely screwed or whatever.
And the guy who was driving the truck for Will to chase the train is the lead welder, Nhat Ullman. He's one of my favorite characters. He's just so unhinged. He was late to work, and then when he received a call to chase up the train, he was like, yeah, boss, I'm on it. It sounds so bogan. He has a long ponytail as well. But in order for them to carry out this plan, I want to go back to the previous question. I think Frank's superpower is the knowledge that he has and the experience he's got from
just the wisdom,
17 years of work. So he knows about the weight of the train, the length of the train, and the different destinations of the train. So he kind of forms the idea. And, because he knows the train so well, he came up with the idea of driving the train backward to chase up the 777 and hook up in the back. Will's superpower, I think it's just his determination to prove his name, because he was obviously facing the restraining order from his partner and all the hate from the older guys. But he's still like, I'm here for this job. I want this job. I want to prove everyone that I can do this. And of course, Connie is just like the person who makes it all happen, right? Like she organizes Ned to chase up to the train. She organizes she gives them the plan to know where to put the stop in and things like that. And she was under a lot of pressure as well.
I could imagine if it went wrong, she probably would have been one of the people that gets fired because they would have put the blame on her.
I'm pretty sure she was fired. Like
was
Galvin
she?
fired her on the spot when they decided to go with Frank's plan.
Right.
And there was another unsung hero, which is Scott Werner. He is the Federal Railway Administration inspector.
Right.
The guy who was always cool, but he came up with all the calculation in his head.
Just happened to be there. He's like, I'm checking up on inspection. You got a train on the run?
But I think he was there for a school trip.
Because he was going to give him a tour or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a train that's coming past. Because that's like right at the start when the train first gets on the run, where the kids like go past and like, they're just going to murder a bunch of kids to start a movie?
Yeah.
Good way to start.
Yeah, so he's a very fun character. He was in the other train movie, like the previous one, and he was one of the dispatcher.
Okay.
And now he got promoted to become the inspector.
Well, there you go.
And I want to quickly talk about the heroic moments in these movies, because at the end of the day, no one would become a hero without the heroic act. Do you have any kind of moments that you like from this movie?
I think there's like the few, like Ned chasing the train.
Yeah, I love Ned.
Will, like we said with Will and Frank, just thinking about like going after it, let alone catching up to it and actually like pulling it off.
Yeah.
with like so many failures going wrong, like getting your leg broken and the train not breaking enough, and you know they're trying to keep fixing it, right? So it's like crazy. That's what I mean. There's so I feel like the whole thing is just them trying to figure out what we can do to stop it, right?
Yeah.
Which is all like above and beyond their like station, right?
Yeah.
None of them had to do this, right? They could have all just been
agree.
like, yeah, we could have just let this go until it completely like explodes or whatever, right?
And right in the beginning, they were instructed to take the train into a different railroad. And this gets me to one of my favorite heroic moments from Frank Barnes. He knew full well that he is pushed into early retirement. And when he was on the phone with the director, he said, I'm going to retire anyway, but I'm still doing this. Not for you, not for the company. So he knew all the consequences, but he decided to do the right thing anyway.
Well, he was worried about the danger, right? Because it's like this could have destroyed that whole town or whatever, right?
Maybe his daughters.
I think that's what he was thinking about as well. Like, not just for his daughters, right? It's just like, if this goes bad, it's bad.
It's very bad. And another moment I really like is when Connie and the inspector, Scott, they took over the situation when Frank gave them the idea of like, oh, let us chase the train after the derailers didn't work. And Connie was like, yeah, you can take this job and shove it up your ass or something. And then she just hung up on the boss, and then she was like, guys, let me help you with this situation. And I think, like those moments like that make me really appreciate the unsung heroes in real life and also of this movie. But other than that, speaking of people who are in the wrong place at the wrong time, I think we can move on to Collateral. I think this is one of the two movies that Tom Cruise plays the bad guy.
He doesn't play. I feel like he's played the bad guy a few times, hasn't he?
Well, according to his biology, he plays the bad guy in The Vampire's Diary.
Oh, yeah.
And this one.
Really? That's it?
What do you remember? His?
No, he feels like a villainous dude.
He likes to run a lot.
Yeah, he does like to run.
So this movie has a budget of $65 million. It was released in 2004, and it grossed $220 million worldwide. And it was chosen as one of the top 10 movies of 2004. Jamie Foxx was nominated for an Oscar for supporting actor. Michael Mann was the director of this movie. He was the director of Heat, The Insider, Public Enemies, and most recently Ferrari.
I haven't watched that yet.
No, well, I mean, there's a lot of movies about cars this year. So, what was your first impression of the characters?
They're all very interesting, right? They're all like very thought out and have their goals and kind of like where they want to go and stuff. Because Jamie Foxx is like it feels like a normal dude, right? He's just trying to do his job. And he's just trying to get through life, right? He's just like, he's a taxi driver dealing with the mundane of like dropping off people everywhere and dealing with all of that kind of crap all the time. And it's just like, has this goal in mind that he like keeps going to do it, right? And then you go to Tom Cruise's character, who's literally, he's like, is he like a cleaner or a killer? Like he's there to clean up messes of like, shady people, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's insane because at the start, he's just like, he seems like a nice enough dude. Nothing that crazy about him. And then it's like, oh, can you just work for me the whole day? That should have been the first like red flag. And he was already like, no, we don't do that. Like, come on. He's like, I'll give you, was it like $600 or something?
For the night. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. And then when the guy flies out of the window and lands on his taxi, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be a normal day anymore, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's a very, very good way to introduce the story to us because I really like the character of Max Durasher. He's a taxi driver, and he seems to know his stuff. Like in the beginning when he has the first customer.
And he takes a lot of pride in his work as well.
Yes, and I think he's very relatable because he keeps saying to the other people like, this is just a temporary job. I have a bigger goal in mind, to own my company in the future. And the first interaction that he has with Annie, the lawyer, was really good. And he seems to be a very understanding, and he seems to be good at reading people. And this is why he misread Vincent, the character that Tom Cruise plays. It's so interesting because when the lawyer first got into the car, he knew that she was a lawyer. She was like, "Oh, you're wearing expensive suitcases, nice hair."
Yelling at someone on the phone.
Yeah. But then when you get to Vincent, he thought he was just a businessman.
That's his point. Vincent's not meant to look. That's like what he does, right? He's not meant to be noticeable and kind of like just another dude. And that's the thing, because he's a taxi driver, he sees everybody, right? So he has that experience of dealing with a lot of different people. So that's kind of part of it. But like, that's how many times are you driving around with a killer, right?
Yeah. That is something that you don't get
Imagine
into
someone
every
sits in
day.
the taxi, he's like, "Are you a murderer by chance?"
Yeah, I can see the big gun sticking
I
out.
see
of
the blood hanging from everywhere on you.
An interesting fact about this movie, and this is the first unsung hero of this project, the writer, Stuart Beattie. He is an Australian writer.
Oh, there we go.
He came up with this idea when he was 17 years old. Yeah, and when he was taking a cab home from the Sydney airport, and he had this idea, what if the cab driver drives around a murdering maniac? And in the next chance of events, he ran into one of his friends, Julie Richardson, who he had met during one of the screenwriting classes. So at this point, Julie had become a producer, and she was looking for projects for Frank Darabont, the director of Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so he has a company called Edge City, and they were looking for projects for low budget movies.
This wasn't low budget in the end, was it?
$65 million.
That's still pretty, like, when was this? Early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s.
I feel like that's still a decent budget.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, this movie was pitched to HBO in the beginning, but HBO was just like, nah, we're not doing this. As soon as they said no, DreamWorks picked it up, and they decided to run the movie within 2 days. So Stewart, he was 17 at the time. He was part of this project, and he insisted on casting Robert De Niro to play the taxi driver because he was a taxi driver in the
other one.
But
that would have been funny, Robert De Niro.
But this time, the notes from the studio turns out to be a good one because they insisted on casting a younger actor. And Jamie Foxx, Adam Sandler was first considered to play the taxi driver.
Honestly, it wouldn't have been too bad.
Yeah.
I think he could pull off that kind of like more of he would probably come off a bit more cute. Well, he can play serious roles, but I think he would have been interesting. That would have been funny to have Adam Sandler getting berated by Tom Cruise for the whole movie.
Well, funny that you mentioned that. Tom Cruise was not the first choice to play the hitman either. Russell Crowe was considered to play the hitman, and he got Michael Mann, the director, this project. So he was one of the unsung heroes as well. So he got Michael Mann in, and then because the project got delayed so much, Russell Crowe's like,
I've got other stuff to do.
And it's the same with Adam Sandler.
It's funny that they got Tom Cruise then.
Yeah, and then they approached Tom Cruise, and he's like, yeah, sure, no worries.
I'm a maniac, no worries.
In order for Tom Cruise to prepare for this movie, Michael Mann gave him a task. Because you are a hitman, you're not supposed to be recognized in public.
And especially when he's Tom Cruise.
Correct. So the task that he had was he has to work as a FedEx delivery driver in public without being recognized. And he did that for a month.
Damn.
Yeah.
How well did it go? Did he get spotted? Did he say?
Maybe he was spotted like twice or three times. And he also spent a month to practice with live round guns. This was his first time working with live round guns.
Oh, okay.
When he was like 45 years old.
I was going to say, I'm like, how many missions? Hey, all Mission Impossibles would have all had guns.
In that one, a lot of guns, right?
Yeah.
But this was his first time. And and then the main character, Max. Jamie Foxx was a bit of an unknown character or actor during this time, but he was one of the supporting roles in the movie Ali with Will Smith. And Michael Mann saw him in that. And he was like, yeah, I think this might be the right guy. And in the beginning, Jamie Foxx was struggling to build up this character. But after he got all the notes, he was like, yep, now I know how to play this character. So talking about the character of Vincent, what are your thoughts about this hitman?
Well, he's a bit of a strange character because he kind of tries to talk about like his philosophy and his thinking to Max quite a lot as they're driving. And when he does things, he's like, you're bloody just killing people. And he's like, well, do they really matter? He's like, the whole idea is like, we're not that big of a deal, right? So why does it matter if I kill these people kind of thing? That was like his whole kind of philosophy. Because it's like, is it the last time when they're in the taxi for the last time? I think that's when he really starts spurting it out. And that's when Max is like, okay, you're just like,
You're just insane.
you're just like insane. Like,
Yeah. And a bit of a funny side note, when Tom Cruise started the project, Michael Mann liked this project so much, he wrote up pages and pages of the background story for Vincent. So Tom Cruise went in and was like, oh, okay, this is all the background story of this guy. So he had a rough childhood. His father was abusive and etc. And that's why he built up all these philosophies that you mentioned. And and it's very interesting.
Because it does give him, like, I think it helps the film a lot that he's so kind of built up. And it's like, this is his reasoning behind things, right? Because it sells it a lot more than I'm just like a hitman that like cleans up messes for the mob or whatever, right? It could have come off very, very stunted. Because I do think, you know, Tom and Jamie have a good, like, it seems like a good chemistry.
Yeah.
Even though they're like against each other most of the film. I do think it plays off quite well.
Of course, the chemistry between the two characters was very good, but it's also very unsettling in some way. A fan pointed out that the first interaction that they had, Tom Cruise was being a bit rude on purpose, because if he realized that the cab driver is a bit of an unhinged or aggressive, he would move on to a different cab driver, because he wants someone to be a bit calm and demeanor.
Someone he can manipulate a bit easier,
correct.
right?
So he plays that role really well. And there was a segment in the movie where he went to the jazz club.
Yeah. That was crazy as well.
Yeah, that was part of his background story. He grew up with jazz. He learns about the music and things like that. And and the guy who plays the jazz artist, that was his actual playing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not dubbing.
But that whole scene's brutal as well. When he's like, "Oh, if you get this question right, I'll let you live," or whatever.
Yeah,
it just doesn't matter.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Then it leads me to the next question: do you think that Vincent believes that he is the hero of his story?
I wouldn't think he's a hero. Like, if you've just listened to how he talks and how he thinks everyone's not really important, right? So he wouldn't believe in like heroes, right? Because like, what's saving one person do? You know, like he believes in the fact that no one's really important. That's why he's a killer. He's like, if I kill someone, it doesn't mean anything. It's just for me to, you know, get paid and do work, right? So I don't think he would believe in heroes at all. And he wouldn't see himself as one, I wouldn't think.
Interesting. Yeah. No, at first I thought that, you know, all the villains always believe that they are the hero of their own stories. But for him, it's just work.
Wouldn't say he gets enjoyment out of it, but like, I do think he's just like, this is what I do. You know, this is how I do it.
And because of his line of work, it puts Max in a very, very tough situation. Now, what do you think is Max's motivation to do the right thing at the end?
Because it's tough, like, through the whole thing, he's kind of reluctantly helping him, right? There's like points, there's like a few times he tries to like get out, but obviously Vincent's like, you're not getting away with this shit.
You're not going anywhere.
Because there's, I feel like he tries a few times. He initially, because he ties him up initially, right, to the taxi, and he can't get out. Yeah. And then the guys rob him. Yeah. He's like, mate, I'm like, my arms are bloody tied to the wheel. And he's like, nah,
give me the bag.
And then like Tom Cruise just fucking kills the shit out of him. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But because I think he really, like, he tries to get away a few times when they're in the club. Yeah. That's maybe the best chance he like has when the Hulk comes to try saving him. And he, you know, he's like literally outside, and then bam, and you're like, oh shit,
that's brutal.
And there he is. He's like, come on, let's go.
And he's like, yeah, get in the car.
Yeah,
like, no.
Like, that's like, even though he hasn't, like, at this point, I wouldn't say he's done anything heroic. He's just tried to survive, right? He hasn't. Like, he got rid of his documents and stuff like that. He tried to rebel. This is something I can do. This will stop it, right? If he doesn't have the information. But that doesn't work. That puts him in... That's a great scene as well when he pretends to be Vincent. Yeah. But it's really not until, like I was saying, when their last chat and he figures out that who the next target is. Yeah. Is the lawyer he's been talking to at the start of the movie. So he's like, oh shit, I got to do something. Yeah. And so he's like, oh, that's right, nothing matters. And he like starts speeding and goes insane and tries to flip it to like kill him or whatever, or at least stop him. Yeah. But that still doesn't work. So
and that's definitely his most heroic moment. Yeah. After that, Vincent continued with his mission and he overpower a police officer.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, that's not very heroic, is it? He's kind of like, he took out a cop.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because I remember I have seen this a few times before, but always when the like cop pulls him up, it should be all right now. And it's like, Oh, that's right. There's a dead body in the bloody back of the truck.
Yeah. There are two. I think he put a few in the back. Okay, and what do you think you would have done if you were in Max's situation?
I don't know. I don't know if I would have done. Like, what can you do? Like, it's hard when a guy's got a gun to your head, essentially. And even, like, what could you even do? Like, even if you tried to do something. Because even, I do believe in the end, Vincent would have probably just shot him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he was getting away, even if he helped him the whole time.
Yeah.
Because that's what you kind of learn. I think the cops are talking about it, where they're like, oh, this is similar to the other one where 2 guys died and then a taxi driver was shot.
Yeah.
So it's like his MO, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's just like he was probably not going to make it anyway, even if he did everything. So that's even harder, like in retrospect, thinking like, oh, it's like, because that's what you're thinking in your head if you're the taxi driver, like, oh shit, if I just do what he says, I might be all right and maybe make some money, even though it's not a lot. When you think about what he's asking him to do, like it's not really that much money.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, hopefully I can just get out. But then, you know, probably in retrospect, you probably wouldn't. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could have done anything he did.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done either because I think the situation that Max was in was super difficult, especially when you are like in front of the gun of someone, you know, pointing a gun at you, and he made Max take him to see his mum as well.
It's brutal as well because there was one point where he's like, oh, the head of the cab department was like, oh, your mum's been calling. She says you haven't been. And then Vincent's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I usually go see my mum. And he's like, well, we have to go see your mum because it's a part of your, you know, schedule.
Routine, yeah.
And we can't mess that up.
Yeah.
That was brutal as well. It was funny though.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to buy your mum flowers. And he's all right. He's like, why'd you buy me flowers? He's like, I didn't buy you. Vincent didn't. He's like, oh, okay. Oh, these are lovely flowers. And I'm like, oh, come on, mum. Bob. Jesus.
Yeah, poor Max. And that makes me rethink the whole movie as well. Because let's say if Vincent is successful with his mission, then he would make Max drive back to his mum, murder his mum because now his mum have seen him.
Oh, that might have been true as well, right?
Yeah, and then he would ask Max to take him back to the airport.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, that would have been interesting as well. How would they? If they even got to that point. Yeah, you're right. How would she? Because then, yeah, exactly. Because if they go back to her and be like, oh, who was he with? It's like, oh, Vincent came in.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's true. He would have had to clean up that as well. Well, obviously didn't have to deal with it, but that would probably be a plot hole if it's like, oh, what would have he done? Would he have gone back? Would he have killed Max and then go back to kill his mum? Or
yeah,
you know? But yeah, but it is a very Hollywood kind of scenario, right?
Yes, like the hero came out winning at the end, of course.
Yeah,
you know, you want
and gets the girl as well.
Gets the girl, yeah, yes.
But and it's just, I do think it's like an interesting hero story, but he isn't quite, because in the end he shoots him, right? It's not like because that maybe we'll talk at the end after we talk about our last movie, but it's kind of like he tries to be the hero, I would say, more than he becomes the hero.
Yeah.
It is a hard situation. Like, it's not you know, it's not like an easy thing to come out the hero, but I would say he does try to be the hero.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So before we move on to the last movie, I just want to ask whether you noticed a very small cameo in this movie.
Oh, no. Which one?
In Collateral.
Which one? Which movie?
Right at the beginning when Vincent landed in LA.
I don't know.
Jason Statham was there.
Oh.
So Jason Statham was part of the assassin organization. He gave him the bag with all the information.
Because I remember when I started watching it, I'm like, was that Jason Statham? And I was like, was this the right movie?
And it turns out people were like, oh, this is Jason Statham before he was a transporter. So like, why didn't you hire him to drive you?
Well, but then he'd have to try to take him out.
Yeah, that would be so interesting.
Who would win, Tom Cruise or Jason?
Oh, Timmy. It's a good idea for the movie.
Tom Cruise will probably win. I feel like he's more of a psychopath.
Yeah. And on a much more upbeat note, we move on to the last movie, The Other Guys. Literally, The Other Guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And this movie was directed and co-wrote by Adam McKay. Apparently, Adam McKay has a partnership with Will Ferrell. So they're part of the company. They work together in Anchorman 1.
Yeah, I was like, they've done a few things, haven't they?
Anchorman 2, Talladega Nights.
Oh, I love that movie.
And Step Brothers and The Other Guys. This movie was really well received by the viewers and critics. With a budget of $100 million, it grossed $170 million.
Oh, that's about right. It is like a comedy, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to think how much Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell would have got. Yeah. Because that would have been somewhat both of their, like, top of their game. Well, would have been asking a lot of money, because I think this is the best like Will Ferrell was at. And even I'm not a huge fan of Mark Wahlberg, but this is when he's the most popular, I would say.
I think so. I think his acting is very one-dimensional.
Yeah, but it works for this.
It works for this one. Yeah,
because he is one dimension.
Yeah,
but Will Ferrell's
he's
crazy.
also one dimension as well.
Like for points, he's got the two. He's got two dimensions.
Yeah. The unhinged one and the very calm one. So this movie has got a really star-studded cast. Beside Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, you got Michael Keaton, Steve Coogan, Dwayne Johnson, Samuel L. Jackson, Eva Mendes, Derek Jeter, the baseball player, and Damon Wayans Jr., Lindsay Sloan, like a lot of well-known actors and actresses. But do you still remember the story of this movie?
Oh my god! So it is literally like there's these two head cops.
Yeah,
they do a stupid thing and die, and so the whole department's like, who's going to be the next big dog?
Yeah,
and Mark Wahlberg's character is literally Terry, right? It's Terry. And
Terry Hoyt.
Yeah, he's literally like, let's do it, and then
I'm a peacock.
Yeah, let me fly. And Will Ferrell's like, nah, mate, I just want to do paperwork. I don't want to die. And then like they go through all these shenanigans, and they're like working on this case to figure out about scaffolding, which leads into like tax fraud.
Yeah,
and then they get caught up in this whole thing about like laundering money, and then it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. And I don't know if the main characters in this movie go through any kind of arc. Two characters remain the same.
Kind of. They just get along better.
Yeah, that's about it.
They get along better, but they kind of stay the same person. They don't really learn. But it's a comedy, right? You're not meant to be too serious.
There are so many Easter eggs in this movie. And if I must choose, like talking about the arcs of the two characters, the arc that I can see for Alan Gamble is when he decided to crack the case. He came back to meet the captain. He's like, Gator, he needs his cat. And Michael Keaton was like,
oh, there you go.
Where is it?
Yeah, here you go.
And for Terry's character, when he was demoted into traffic controller, he became the top traffic controller of the month. And it's like, yeah, I really enjoy it here. Like, the guys here are nice.
Yeah. He really just accepts it, right?
Yeah. And I think those are like the two biggest developments that I could see besides their love interests.
Yeah.
And another Easter egg that I want to bring up is at the end of the movie, during the ending credits, they were showing the chart of the Ponzi scheme. And how much money it took out of the American people.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, that's been happening for a long time. That's why it's crazy.
So let's talk about the heroes. The heroes of this movie. I guess
there's technically a few, but whether you want to call them heroes or not.
Okay. Oh, there's a few. Do you think there is another hero?
I wouldn't call them heroes, but I mean, like for the movie, like we've got the two at the start, right? Samuel and The Rock, great heroes.
So Danson and Highsmith.
The first part of this movie I always used to love because I thought their characters are insane.
Yes.
And I love the fact like they have the huge chase at the start and they destroy half the city.
Yes.
And then they're getting like interviewed at the precinct and they're like, you caused like $21 million of property damage for like half an ounce of weed or something that's usually legal in most other states. And he's like, I think New York would agree that it didn't matter. And he's like, New York's the best city in the world. And I'm like, oh God.
And in that scene, there is an unsung hero as well. The hot dog
guy. Free hot dogs for her. No drinks.
No drinks. I can't do it. I can't do it. Yes. But the question I have for these guys is, can they be considered regular people?
No.
No, I mean like Alan Gamble and Terry, like the main characters.
No, I still feel like their characters are very Hollywood. Very movie. Is like the most normal dude. He's just like has to work two jobs.
So funny.
He can't, he's just trying to get by. Like at the police station, all this shit's going down. He's like, get this shit away from me, all right?
I want to send my kids to college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just like he just wants to get by.
Michael Keaton must be my favorite character in this movie
because I do think all the characters have a bit of like realism or a bit of like they ground them a little bit, but apart from that, they're all absurd. Yeah. They're very absurd.
Yeah. So then can we talk about the motivations that they have to become the heroes? Like Terry it's very obvious.
So yeah, for Terry it's very obvious because Alan's probably harder to pin down only because more for him it is literally like trying to get out of his shell a bit more and being more comfortable kind of being crazy, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's like the whole point of his film is like he's trying not to be that guy anymore. Try to be Gator. He doesn't want to be Gator anymore, but he's trying to come to terms with like using that part of him for good, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Terry, it's literally, I just want to be the best cop.
Yeah.
And he just like screams at everybody.
Yeah.
I will say, I do find it funny every time they do something. It's like, oh, these are the mob cartel got the big from uptown, big mobsters. And like, Alan's like, what are you talking about? Like, every time it's like, this has nothing to do with anything right now. Why are you saying this?
Yeah. No, I love the chemistry between Terry and Alan. I think like having two opposite personalities is, in this case, is really
it's a classic storytelling, right?
It is.
Two opposites.
But then, if we talk about heroes, then most of them have their own superpowers.
Oh, no.
Let me remind you of the power to attract beautiful women.
I thought you were going to say shoot the roof.
Shoot the roof?
The roof, the office pop.
Yeah.
That's Alan's power. He can shoot roofs.
Yeah. No, I was talking about like the
and
power
Terry can turn into a peacock at will. Yeah. That's his superhero.
Did you notice the actual peacock flying? At
the end, and it's just like, oh my, okay.
Here we go. Yes, but there is a superpower that Alan has, which is being super attractive to the opposite gender.
For some reason.
I
feel like this is a very like Hollywood comedy thing. It's just like the kind of like, I don't think Will Ferrell's ugly or anything, but it's just like maybe the nerdy or the like weird guy just like somehow gets women.
Yes.
And it's just like, okay.
Yes. This is a creative choice. At first they were thinking like, oh, Alan would just have a very normal wife.
I think that would have been fine.
Yes.
Like, I think it's a bit much.
But no, you want to take it to the next level.
Like, I do think some things with Gator is kind of funny, but I don't think like... It could have been better without that shit, to be honest.
Yeah. No, but I think it's just funny. And they got Eva Mendes to play his wife. And then, I think that situation...
Who's married to Ryan Gosling?
They're not married.
Are they not?
They're
together.
They're together. They got kids together.
No, I was going to say, they've been together a long time, right?
Yeah. So I would be interesting to see like Ryan Gosling being on the set. It's like, why are you with Will Ferrell? and
some of the shit they say when they're like, she's hiding out at her mum's home, and then the grandmother's like, I cannot say any of this shit anymore. Stop it. I am not saying another
Poor
thing.
grandmother.
Yeah, I know. It was funny.
Yes, it was very funny. And what about Terry? What do you think his superpower is?
I think it is literally just getting angry.
What about getting good at things sarcastically?
That as well. And also, he's good at shooting, but shooting... athletes. So Alan shoots roofs and he shoots baseball players.
Oh my god, that's so funny. What is his nickname? The
Jarek,
the New York Clippers.
Yeah, New York Clipper. Yeah, something like that. Oh my god.
Yes, and I want to talk about another unsung hero of this movie, Captain Jean Mok. The guy who works 2 jobs.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say. He's probably the most real person in the film.
I love Michael Keaton.
He's so good. I love him in this film so much. Because every time they talk to him at the precinct, he's like very serious and like, stop this shit. I don't want to get in more trouble. When they go to Bed Bath & Beyond at the end, he's like, oh, hey guys. And he's like really friendly and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is great.
And do you remember the briefing at the beginning?
Yeah.
When he mixed up the 2 files.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, the new mats are in, guys. Yeah. Don't worry. Was it in this precinct there's a rapist on the run or something? And he's like, oh, shit. Don't worry about that. Actually, but if you live in that area, do worry about that.
It's so funny. And then he came out to the shop and was like, yeah, this is where I want all the chopping boards. I want them to be organized by wood and colors. Yeah, I love that. And I guess if we want to talk about just the moments where our heroes step into the roles that were written for them, the first one that I can think of is Terry Hoyt's multiple attempts to win back his ex-fiancée.
I don't know. I feel like they're a bit creepy. Like, she's clearly like done with him.
Yeah.
For good reasons.
Yeah.
And he's just like going to the worst lengths to try to win her back.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, the first scene when they're in the ballet and he like walks in, he's like, who the hell's this guy? Is this your lover? He's like, no. He's like my dance partner. What are you doing? Yeah. You walked in here and you're like abused, like yelling shit at me. Because he says so many terrible things to her. And I'm like, I'm like, I would have got a restraining order against this crazy motherfucker.
But he's a police officer, so
I guess that's true. The police do whatever the hell they want, especially in this movie.
Yeah. And what about Alan's gamble? I think the biggest moments I can think of is when he finally came back to his own self and he apologized to his wife and tried to mend things with her. I mean, obviously that scene was funny as hell, but the intention was good. Yeah. And I think we got to the end of the three movies. Are there any things that you want to revisit?
So I don't know if we go into great length about why we think Alan and Terry were. Do you think they were heroes, or like, do you think what they were trying to do? Because I do like they have like a monologue at the end of the film where they talk about heroes literally, and they're like, it isn't about doing like the flashy things like the main two characters at the start of the film, but it's about the small things you do. And like, it's not about the limelight. It's not about like the fame.
Yeah.
It's about trying to do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
I do think they try to do that through the whole movie. However you feel about their characters who are a bit insane. Yeah. But I do think like Alan tries to do the right thing by arresting people. Terry does try, like, I don't like how he screams at everybody, but he is like a good cop.
Yeah.
But it's just like maybe the wrong way about it.
Yeah. And I think, that's an interesting point that the heroes of the stories, they don't usually consider themselves to be heroes. They just try to do the right things.
Well, that's a good way to look at it, right? Because like you said when we had the little quiz at the start about superhero powers, right? That's not necessary. Like, that's a big flashy thing, right, for a hero to be seen to use these flashy powers to do amazing things to save people, right? But actually in all of these films, nothing like there's flashy moments, but there's none of these guys do anything too crazy apart from the train, saving the train. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
But it's not like anything that a person can't do, right? Some of it is beyond what we think is capable of at times, but like, the cops just try to do their job right and not worry about being told not to do it, right? They're like, stop doing this, it's going to get us in trouble, please stop this. But they're like, no, we know this is like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We're actually going to go through with it. Even with Max, with Vincent, he's like, what worse situation could you be in? Like, a killer's trying to like murder people, and he's like, you're probably on the list. And he's willing to like try to stop him.
Yeah.
Whether you can call him a hero or not, I do think he at least tries to do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like we go back to the start. I think the train one's easy enough to call them heroes because it's like,
I think at the end of the movie they were crowned heroes.
Yeah.
Like in front of the press and things like
exactly.
that.
So it's like that's literally going above and beyond for normal people as we like understand it. So I do think I nearly would call them all heroes, but maybe there's like more the movie part of it where you're like, oh, that's probably a bit much to call someone a hero. But like, I do think they all have like the ability or even things that you would call people a hero, right?
Yeah. And so why do you think that these types of characters are not very popular in today's movies? Well, like we don't see these types of movies anymore. Like the normal people or ordinary people making really difficult decisions in difficult situations.
I think it's like it's a hard story to write, right? Like that's why real stories are good to go off with because you already got the story. It's just like making the film. But because even like because we have so many superhero movies as well, it's like a bit, it's like, oh, do we want to put like another hero movie in there? Because I'm trying to even think of the last kind of like movie I've watched where it's like maybe somewhat of a normal dude that's like gone above and beyond, but because usually it's always like the action hero is like an ex-marine or doing a job like that. He's like, and then he's already got all the skills and ability, so it's like not above him really. Correct. It's just them doing the right thing, which is can be a hero thing, but it's not like most of the things in this movie. You could say like the cops have the ability, but they're like everyone laughs at them all the time.
Yeah.
So people wouldn't call them capable. So
yeah. And I think this reminds me of two things. The first movie that came to mind is Prisoners. Like with Hugh Jackman, the guy is technically an ordinary person.
Yeah, but that's when we talk about like doing the right thing. That's also like what's the lengths you would go through.
Yeah,
because it'd be a good movie to like look into about like what does it mean to be a hero? Because he believes he is doing the right thing to save his daughter, right?
Daughter back, yeah.
Like he literally tortures a dude who had nothing to. He didn't have anything to do with it, right? He was he's just
in the wrong place at the wrong time,
right?
Yeah. Said the wrong thing.
It's not his fault that murderous people took him in, right?
Yeah, no, like exactly. So that's why it reminds me of that story because an ordinary person, like in a difficult situation, it's the decisions that they make will determine whether they are a hero or the villain in the story. And and that was a very famous saying. It's not the situations, it's the decisions that makes the heroes. And I think this is why these types of characters are so relatable, because in those situations, you can see yourself doing those things.
Or at least hope you could, right?
Not in Collateral. I don't wish anyone to be in that situation.
Don't put me in a car with Tom Cruise.
no, just Tom Cruise. Doesn't need to be Vincent.
Yeah. Just Tom Cruise, yeah, exactly. Don't want Vincent either.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of, I do think we did choose some good movies because they're all like different levels. Like Unstoppable was like, I would say like, if you say someone's a hero, that's a hero, right?
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx's character in Collateral, it's like trying the best he can in a terrible situation. Other guys are just like two goofy characters that are trying their best.
Yeah.
So it is like a good look at different characters, but like Prisoners would have been another good one. We have done that already.
Yeah.
But that's what I was trying to think. I thought when you're saying that, I was thinking Dune as well. Like Dune's that, but even then he's got like superpowers as well.
Yeah.
So he's like, but he is like I would say that's a hero character. That's one. But
yeah.
I do think, it's always hard to like, I think it's a tough job to write a good hero, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to like overdo it.
Yeah.
And people being like, I'm not that interested in this character, right?
Yeah. I think we got a pretty good selection. So in case you guys haven't seen these movies, definitely check them out. And anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I think that's a hero's ending.
Cool. The hero landing.
The hero landing. Oh no, I'm not doing the Marvel landing.
So we have reached the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this, click the like button, click on the subscribe button, and click on the bell to get the notifications for the latest episodes. Until next time, I'm Darren.
And I'm Tim.
Has been Movie Beings.